All right, welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is Kenneth Scott. Kenneth is a former collegiate and professional athlete. He graduated from the University of Utah, where he earned 2 degrees as a student athlete. Kenneth is passionate about being of service, educating the youth so they can understand their true worth and the value to achieve success in the future. So I'm really stoked to have him on today. Being from Utah, I'm excited to have a Ute here on the show today. Welcome, Kenneth.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it so much. And I'm not going to give you too much grief today because you're a Cougar, but it's okay. It's always go Utes.
Yeah, well, you can have that for now, but we're coming back. Our football team's coming back. Let me hand you this virtual microphone, and you can go ahead and have the stage.
All right, I'll go ahead and take it from you. Well, just like he said, my name is Kenneth, and I definitely appreciate him for allowing me to have this platform. And so today I have wanted to speak with you guys about dreaming big. All of us have some type of dreams that we want to get to, when we start off at a young age. And so just about a month ago, I was speaking with a gentleman. He is an owner of 3 businesses, and he also does options and stocks. And for the people who know, that's where you invest money in different companies. And as we were sitting down at our meeting, he was talking about how he just purchased an $8 million apartment complex and how he's getting ready to sell it for $11 million. And so I'm just sitting here like in awe, like, okay, this is pretty nice. This dude got some money. And as you're talking to him, you can hear the accent in him and knowing that he's not from the U.S. And so I was curious. So I was like, hey, how did you get to where you are now, being from a whole nother country and then coming over to the U.S. and having so much success? And it was very simple in what he said. And the message was clear. He said, by dreaming big. And so that's one of the things I wanted to speak with you guys about today. And throughout that whole conversation, it was about an hour-long conversation, there was 3 things that I took away from when we had talked. And the first one out of the 3 things was setting goals for yourself. Setting goals is huge. And I'm not talking about just any type of goal. I'm talking about like the SMART goals, like being specific in what you want, measuring it, make sure it's attainable, realistic, and having time executed towards it. So just a little bit about me and my background. I was raised by a single mother for about half of my childhood. My mother, who's not here no more, she had lupus. She was sick. And so for the people who don't know what lupus is, it's where the inside of your body attacks itself and there's no cure for it. And so having lupus, it makes you fatigued, tired a lot and very achy. And there was points at times where she would feel stiff and she couldn't move and I'll have to carry her around to different places. And so I'm from a place called Fontana, California. It's right on the borderline of Rialto, California. And if you're looking at a map, like a world map, it's about an hour east of LA in a place called the Inland Empire in San Bernardino County. And so my area that I grew up in was, gangs, drugs, violence, you name it, because we lived off of Section 8, food stamps, Social Security income, those welfare programs, because we didn't have it all. And so early on at the age of 9, that's when I started to play football. And so my goals was easy, like get to college, get my degree. And after I get to college, get to the NFL so you can start making money. So your mom don't have to worry about anything in life. And you guys can start being able to live off of it. And so for me, going back to the goals, when I got into high school, there was a guy by the name of Maurice Shaw. I went to Colony High School in Ontario. There's a guy by the name of Maurice Shaw. I was coming in as an incoming freshman. He was a senior. And everybody was like, K. Scott, you remind everybody about Maurice Shaw. He had the number 2. That's the reason why I wore number 2 in college. And I was like, okay, if you guys say this is the guy I need to model myself behind and he's about to go to college on a scholarship, that's one of my goals. And so what I did was took all his goals, all his stats from freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, put it on a goal paper so where I can measure it. So every year I can know how much I needed to attain it. So long story short, by setting those goals the way I said it, smartly, like how I broke it down before, I was not only able to achieve his goals, but beat it. And that's what was able to have me be a national recruit, number 34 in the nation, and able to choose from the many scholarship offers, that I did have. And so, having that, I wound up going to choosing University of Utah, go Utes. And so, the same thing was for me going into college. I had to set goals because my next goal was making it to the NFL. And my position coach by the name of Aaron Rodgers, who's at BYU now from Utah, you know, I have to cheer for them now. You know, he said, hey, K. Scott, you remind me of this guy by the name of Freddie Brown. And for anybody in Utah that knows Freddie Brown, he's a legend, man. They call him Downtown Freddie Brown, game-winning catch against TCU in 2008. Everybody loves this guy. And for him to say that I remind everybody of him, you know, it was like, wow, okay. So I had to live up to it. I had some big shoes to fill, even though my shoe size is probably bigger than his. But, you know, same thing approach. You know, I took his stats and divided it. And so like I did with Maurice Shaw in high school, and by setting those goals, I was able to not only beat Freddie Brown's stats, but also was able to have the opportunity with the Los Angeles Rams and the NFL to be able to join their team. And so that's number one. Set goals smart. And at the end of the day, after you set your goals, understand your why towards them. And number two, what I took from the owner of the three businesses conversation was take action, right? We got to take action, but not only take action, you can't be afraid to fail. And so going off the story I was telling you guys just recently, after I got done my collegiate career, I had the opportunity, obviously, to be in the NFL. And so as I get done with my senior year, this is the part where you start reaching out to agents. And what agents are, they represent you to the NFL teams so that, you know, you can be a resource to the NFL and so to use you on their team. And so I went through that process, and a lot of agents I was speaking with was like, hey, you're going to be a mid-round grade, late-round grade. But there was a contingency around it. They said if you run a 4.5 40 in your 4.5 in your 40-yard dash was a straight line, you'll be drafted in the mid-round. 4.6, you'll be drafted in the late round. Anything higher than that, it's going to be a long opportunity for you. So I went to Oregon to train for the NFL draft, and you know, this whole time, I'm as a receiver, for the people who don't know what a receiver is, the person that catches the pass. I'm not the fastest guy in the world. I'd say that. And so when they said 4.5, it made me nervous. I was scared. And that fear of failure started to get inside of me, and it allowed me to be timid. And so we get to pro day. Pro day is where all the NFL teams and CFL teams was there to come to watch you perform. It's like the NFL combine, but at your school. And so I get there early morning. I'm on the bench press. I killed it. Vertical, killed it, almost 40 inches. Then I get the broad jump, killed it. Get on the other field stuff, killed it. 40-yard dash comes up. And like I said, you got to take action, but you can't be afraid to fail. And so I get to the 40-yard dash. I'm timid. I'm nervous. I'm shaking. I'm like, dang, I can't fail, because if I fail, then I'm not going to get to my goal. And long story short, I ended up failing. You know, I didn't run the time where I was supposed to in order to get drafted. Obviously, I'm appreciative of the opportunity, but I didn't get drafted like I was supposed to. And that was because of the fear of failing. And so as you guys are on your journey of dreaming big, take action, but do not have the fear of failure, because that's going to diminish your confidence in anything that you do. And the last point I wanted to talk to you guys about was just maximizing your opportunity, right? In order to maximize your opportunity, you got to be prepared. Tyler might know, but in college, my quarterback, he's 6'7". You know, if you look at him, you'll think he's a basketball player. The dude loves volleyball. And so his name's Travis Wilson. He lives in an area in Southern California called San Clemente. It's around the beach areas, and he loves to surf. Surfing is like one of his favorite things to do. I couldn't do it, but he loves it. And so he was telling me how when you're surfing, in order to be prepared for the big waves, you got to prepare for the small waves and have patience and keep practicing. And when that big wave does come, you'll be prepared. So one of the days he was sitting out there, and he's only been riding just short waves, but he's maximizing on his opportunity. And so once the big wave he approaches, he was like, okay, he had his goals. He was, all right, let me go ahead and take action. He wasn't scared no more because he's already prepared for it. So he gets on the big wave, he just rides that sucker on through. And you can just see his confidence, just like, man, I just did it. And so when you maximize your opportunities, by you being prepared, it's going to allow you to just overhaul everything. And that's the same thing he did with that wave. And so as you're on this opportunity, you better ride that wave till there's no end in sight. And so in conclusion for everything, man, what I've learned as, you know, on the journey of dreaming big is, man, you will find more fulfillment on the journey rather than achieving the actual goal is what I learned, because you're taking lessons from many of the different things that you have. And so as you guys are dreaming big, just remember the 3 key things that I told you: set goals, make them smart; 2, take action, do not be afraid of failing; and the last one, which is 3, maximize on all your opportunities and be prepared for whatever happens. And thank you, Tyler, for letting me be on this platform, and I appreciate you.
Yeah. Now, Kenneth, do you have time for a few questions?
Of course I do.
Awesome. I love this message of dreaming big, and especially coming from you, because you're still super young. You have your whole life ahead of you, and you're kind of in
Right.
the middle of accomplishing big goals and now setting new goals for the future. I want to talk a little bit about your time in the pros, because obviously you wanted to be a mid-round draft pick. It didn't work out perfectly. You still ended up signing and being able to play with the Rams, and then later going on to play in the CFL with the Alouettes. So you got to live the dream. I mean, that childhood dream. First, what was it like finally, being signed by a pro team? I mean, was it awesome?
Man, I'll tell you this. So it was me and my fiance after the draft. I'm just pissed. I'm peed off, guys. Sorry, blurt that out. I was peed off, guys. And so after the draft, I was in our basement. We was in Oregon at my mother-in-law's house, and I was just in the basement, just in a dark room after the draft, just hunkered down in depressing mode. And my fiance comes downstairs like, "Come on, man, get your butt up, man. You're smelling. Get out of here. Let's go get something to eat." So we go to this restaurant to go get some chicken and waffles. And as I'm getting out the car, I get a call from a California number. I'm like, okay, what's this? I'm thinking it's from someone from back home, because I'm from California. And so I call and it's like, "Hey, this is such and such from the Los Angeles Rams." I said, "No way." And so that was probably the best tasting lunch I ever had, because it was filled with great news. But when I got there, it was awesome. Seeing the different people. I remember going to Tavon Austin's and Stedman Bailey's locker room, like, man, I'm finally here, and seeing Aaron Donald stuff, because it was during mini camp. And so my roommate at the time was DeQuil Williams. He was a receiver from Auburn. And man, just having those conversations, I was joking with Jared Goff, how we picked him off 6 times, but just that feeling of being there was awesome. But it was also depressing because I had gotten cut. But the feeling there was awesome. Like, just like, man, I'm finally here. It was to the point where you shed a couple of tears because you're like, dang, I'm here. But then again, it's like, okay, what now? And so, but to answer your question, it was a beautiful feeling. And when I got to the CFL, I was different, very different. And I'll tell you why. I get into the huddle, and, CFL players, a lot of, especially in Canada, a lot of them speak French. So I'm in the huddle, and they're talking French to each other. French to each other. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then the field's bigger. The more players on the field, it's just people motioning. And it's just different. But it was a great opportunity because it allowed me to see different things and different aspects, learn from different people and different cultures. And that was the best part about it. Just the off-field stuff was better because you get to learn so much and hear different stories and different sides of the world from people that you never would have had conversations with in the beginning.
Right. So one of the things, we've talked to a number of professional football players on this show, and I mean, it's a brutal business, going into the NFL and going through. I mean, if you're not cut, you're going to get injured. You're going to, very, very few people last very long. But the things that got you there, you talked earlier about the process, and part of setting those smart goals is enjoying the process and being able to make the most of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious, what are some of the lessons that got you there that now you're looking forward and saying, okay, these are my next goals. These are my next things. What are some of the lessons that you learned along the way?
So there were 2 things. One was being able to adapt to a new environment, and then also adjusting to it. So there's a thing called thermostat in the regular temperature monitor when you set your AC. And so being able to adapt and adjust is one of the biggest things and most beneficial things for me that I was able to accomplish. So no matter what field I go in, I can be able to adapt to what it is and be coachable enough to adjust and to learn new things. And I think that's the biggest key, is to, when you're adapting and adjusting, don't be afraid of learning new things. That's like the biggest thing that I learned. And don't be afraid to start over. because you're going to have to start over so many times. There's going to be so much adversity that you just have to go through. And so I had my fair shares, especially in college, with broken ankles. Both of my ankles were broken at different points in times, but just that adversity of having to fight through, not knowing the end in sight, because you have people telling you, hey, you might not play again. You're like, what? And then you have to start all over back to where you was in the beginning to beat where you were. And so it's just that constant measure of having to adapt to your new circumstances and adjust to it to get you past where you were in the beginning.
Right. Awesome. Now, when you were in high school and preparing for college, as you mentioned, you got a lot of scholarship offers, one of the top rated receivers in the country. You're the big man on campus at your school. I'm curious, if we take football out of the equation, what are some of the things that you liked most about high school? Not football related.
Man, I just love the camaraderie with the students on campus. I'm a big social guy. It's weird. So I'm an introvert and an extrovert at the same time. It's the weirdest thing. But I'm a big social guy. Like, I like to talk to people. I talk with the skateboarders. I talk with the band people because I love music. I love art. I love everything that involves creativity. I love. So if you take football away, I think I'll still be able to accomplish a lot of things because I like to network and meet new people. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me is like when you get on these campuses, make sure you talk to people because you never know. You may learn something new from somebody and that what you've learned may propel you to the next stage in your life just by knowing them or hearing their story. And also it's a connection to their business or, well, not their business, the connection to who they know. And so, if I didn't do football or anything or had football taken away, I still think I'll be in a good space because I love talking to people.
That's cool. Really cool. Did you have either in high school or in college, did you have a teacher or a coach that really helped you along in your journey?
Oh, yes. So in high school, my guidance counselor helped me out so much because I'm going to be honest, I was that guy. I was like, look, I just want to get a C and I'm good. Like, I didn't care about any of your grades. And I didn't realize how effective that was until a lot of colleges came to the school and was like, hey, we can't recruit you. Your grades are horrible. And that was a shocker to me because I'm like, I got a C. I'm passing. I'm not getting D's and F's, but I got C's. But only A's I had was in my electives. And so my guidance counselor sat down with me and was like, look, you have so much opportunity here, but you're not taking advantage of it because you're not being the best version of yourself in school. It doesn't matter how great you are in football. Football is not going to be there if you don't handle this. And so my guidance counselor, she was the huge reason why I am able to be where I am because from her conversations, it allowed me to go to college and focus on my education. And that's how I was able to get 2 degrees. I was on the dean's list multiple times because she prided to me that, education is so key. And if you don't have education, you don't have anything. And so she was my big one. And in college, my big person was my wide receiver coach, Coach Rod. When I was at my lowest points in college to where I wanted to give up because my severe injuries, he was there. I remember my freshman year when I broke my ankle and the trainer was like, look, if this doesn't heal up properly, you may not be able to play football again. He was there. I was on the verge of going back home and just hanging it up. And he was like, no, you're going to stay here. I'm going to be here with you the whole rest of the way, and we're going to get through this. And I remember his kids, they're like 13 and 10 now, or 9 or 10. And they're in the teen, getting ready to get in their teens. And so I was with them when they were little babies, and they were in the living room with me while I'm sitting on the couch, just helping me nursing my injury. And so I just remember those times when I was at my lowest, and he was always there for me, trying to get me better. And so those will be the 2 people I would say, were the most influential for me on my journey.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. I forgot we didn't even talk about your medical red shirt and things like. You were in college for a long time because dealing with injuries.
Time. I could have been a office staff person. How long I was in college, man. So for people that don't know, man, I get there to the University of Utah freshman year. About 2 weeks before the first game, I ended up breaking my ankle. At that time, I was looked to as obviously I was a highly touted recruit. They was looking to put me in. I worked my way to the 2D, meaning I was going to get in rotation. And man, in this silly drill, well, I'm not going to say it's silly. It's the drill called speed and space. And it's the offensive player versus defensive player. You have about 5 yards to make a move, get past them, and, score. And so I make a move and I stiff arm the guy into the ground, but it wasn't the ground, it was my ankle. Completely broke my ankle. And as I'm sitting there on the ground, my coach Rob was like, "Get up, Scotty. You okay? Get up." I'm like, "Yeah, I got you." I'm trying to get up. And he's like, "Get up." I'm like, "I can't." And then I couldn't feel my foot. And it's not that because I broke my ankle, I didn't break the bone. I tore all the ligaments in my ankle. And they said that's worse than breaking a bone because the bone you can have, it's something you can measure. You can measure when the bone heals up. With ligaments, you can't. It's just whenever it gets stronger. So it could take 1 year, it could take 10 years. You just have to keep on working at it. And so I was like, man, that was the worst thing for me. And so that was the first time. Then my junior year, it was the second time on the opposite leg. I'm over here being a good receiver, blocking for my running back out of the backfield as he catches the pass. And as I'm blocking, the running back's behind me, and he gets tackled, and he rolls into my ankle. And all I hear was snap, and I'm just laying on the ground and grabbing my leg, and I'm twirling on the ground because I can't feel my ankle, and people running out, and it's like the same scenario. But this time I broke my fibula with it. And the fibula is just the bone on the side of your leg. And I'm like, wow, come on. And this was supposed to be the year that it was supposed to be my year, because Dennis Erickson, who's a legendary coach, came to Utah, and everybody knows he loves big receivers, and every receiver that he had in his program went to the NFL. So this was my stage. And so, man, it just happened. First game, 9 plays in, out for the whole year. And, it wasn't like that season would have been a pivotal moment in my career, because I would have had huge stats, because my partner, Drez Anderson, he went on to have that was the best season he had in Utah. And that was supposed to be our year, to where we both had big numbers. And so, those 2 moments, man, really made me realize, a lot of things in perspective.
Yeah. And it's tough. We had a player at BYU at the very same time, Jordan Pendleton, who went through a really similar thing, was getting ready to be drafted, and had a devastating injury. It's hard, but that's what happens in life. And I think right now with COVID, kids are seeing we have to adapt, we have to adjust, we have to change. We still want to dream big, but sometimes we have to change those goals and pivot. And
right.
And so I think what I'd like to wrap up here with is just putting you on the spot now as you look forward, and you're still dreaming big. What are some things that you want to do down the road? Maybe not next year or the year after that, but do you have some big dreams that you're pursuing right now?
Yes, definitely. Right now, currently, I'm working on a business right now. It's already been formed. I'm working on a business to, help student athletes. And the reason why I wanted to help student athletes is just maximizing their time as an athlete, because there's going to come a time where that athletic time clock expires, and it's all about, okay, what have you done prior to that that's going to help you propel after that? And so a lot of people talk about, life after ball is sometimes the hardest transition for athletes, because that identity is gone. And so I want to be able to go out to schools, speak to students, and because there's a lot of similarities between like athletes and non-athletes. We both go through the same things. We're just in 2 different fields. And so we can tie messages that equate to both. But my biggest goal, my next goal, is to be able to be of service and just reach out to the many students. Doesn't just have to be student athletes, it can be students as well, to, speak a good message, to give them hope. And that's all I want to do. That's my biggest goal.
Well, you're well on your way. Thank you for sharing that message with us today. If kids want to follow you or connect with you on social media, is there a best place where they can find you online?
Yes, of course. You guys can find me online, Instagram or Twitter. It's kscott_2. It's both platforms. It's kscott_2.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for visiting with us today. Really appreciate your time.
Hey, no problem. Go Utes.